projects that we do. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start talking about our other projects in more detail now. And I'm just going to start with the active projects right now, and go into more about what they are and what they're about, and so on and so forth. In the description for this video, because this video is going to be a separate one from the other two that I have discussed through so far. So I'm going to break this up into videos based on the content of the videos. Or I guess I shouldn't say videos, but two sections of videos. There'll be links in the description for the different projects that are discussed in the video part that it's in. So like if I discuss about, like right now we're going to cover the Final Fantasy fan site, Insurrection, and Space Crusade. So if I get all those done in this video, I'll have the links for those 3 games in the description, just for an example. But Insurrection, as I mentioned earlier, is a Half-Life 2 mod that we're working on, or rather than I'm working on. I've been working on it since 2005, off and on, but I worked on it more religiously, I guess we'll say, in the past, but I've been kind of going off and on with my development of it due to college classes and the recording series. But right now we're on a bi-monthly updating schedule, which means that every 2 months we release an update just to show off what has been done in those 2 months as far as the mapping and coding work, and anything that's kind of been added. We might add in some images of textures that have been added, or videos or audio files for music that we've decided to put in the game. But right now, at this moment with the story, you play as Gordon. That could change in the future, but you play as Gordon as it is right now. And the game takes place right after the events of Half-Life 2, so the episodic games do not happen in this timeline. But what happens is that instead of the Vortigaunts being able to rescue you from G-Man when he pulls you and Alex into the dimension that he's inhabiting at the time, G-Man somehow manages to knock the Vortigaunts away from you so that they can only save Alex before they are forced out of the dimension by G-Man. And at that point, the game fast forwards, I think, 6 years past the elimination of the main Combine forces off of Earth, and also their re-invasion of Earth. Gordon ends up back on the planet somehow due to G-Man's power fading for some reason. And before Gordon can become, I guess, coherent enough to make any kind of decision about what he wants to do, the Combine find him laying on the ground and they arrest him. And they send a communique to Nova Prospect Zero, and you can learn more about this in the backstory for the game. But they send a communication to Prospect Zero saying that they have Anti-Citizen 1 in custody, which Barney intercepts and relays to Alex and Eli, and Alex decides to formulate a rescue plan to get Gordon out of Nova Prospect Zero before Brain can do whatever he's going to do with Gordon. Right now, we have a lot of stuff planned for the game, and it's going to be pretty long. I mean, there are 8 chapters, and each chapter is going to have at least 4 maps in it. Some of them even have more than 4 maps, so it's going to be like at least 32 different maps. Saying that though, the maps will be kind of short. I'm not really sure at this point, like what the average playing time is between maps. But it's not going to be like Half-Life 2 where you're playing a map for half an hour or an hour. it's going to be like, 15, 20 minutes, probably 20 minutes tops, depending on the events in the map, to get through them, which is why there's so many. But I'm kind of kicking around several ideas that haven't really fermented and been implemented yet, such as having cutscenes that don't take you out of Gordon's view, that use what they call point of view cameras, where your view of the game is kind of hijacked, and I can move it around to wherever the action's happening at for the scene. And also some other things. We have quite a bit implemented though, as far as our custom coding. We have the weapons in our mod are going to have iron sights, and for the most part those work, but there is a crash right now with that, because you can go into iron sight mode with grenades, and if you try to go out of the iron sight mode after going into it with grenades, it'll crash the game. It was introduced after I finished working on our armor mod, or armor code implementation, so I might have introduced it then. I'm not really sure why it's happening, so I'm still kind of trying to track it down. We also have armor, which takes the place. If you think of armor, think of if you played at Half-Life Opposing Force. That's how the armor works in this game. We basically rewrote how suit energy and the armor will work. Suit energy used to act like armor, but right now the energy is only going to be used for the shields, the shielding around the HEV suit, and also for some of the other functions like flashlight and stuff like that. But the armor, however, is an entirely new damage hierarchy that we built, that I coded in myself, which what happens is that when the shield runs out of energy, it'll move on to the armor, and the armor will absorb 75% of most damage types, and the remaining 25% is done to the player's health. But the shields will be able to block some forms of damage and not others. Like the shields won't be able to block blunt force damage, like from falling or like stun stick, while the armor will. Shields can protect against projectiles and particle damage, such as like one of the new styles of weapons that we're adding. It can also block mildly against explosive damage. It won't protect against radiation or fire damage. The armor will protect against fire, but not radiation. And it's it's really complex damage control structure that we're working on, to make it more realistic to how you would think shields and armor would work, as far as what kind of damage they will take and what damage they won't. And then we also have an upgrade system for the HEV suit, in which you can increase your armor, your shield, or health points with using upgrade parts that you get from completing secondary missions. And or actually secondary objectives, we'll call them, are really missions. I'm also toying around with being able to modify certain weapon attributes, like damage or overheating, stuff like that. Overheating for our new weapons. But that's just kind of an idea I'm still thinking about, because players can modify those attributes easily through the for the cheat console, because they're saved in the config settings. So I'm not sure if we'll include that or not. But we also have some other custom things like an HUD task list that was taken from the Valve developer community. Basically, we'll list your objectives for a map and color-coded for priority. Green priority is kind of low, just means that you your main, like if your main goal is to escape a place, that might be in green, because it's not really a major objective, such as keeping Alex alive. Might be a high priority objective, so that would be colored red. And secondary objectives are colored purple. Or I guess it's more of a violet or lavender kind of purple than a purplish purple. I'm also going to be adding some new skins for some enemies, and also I'm going to be trying to code in some new AI scripting for some of the enemies based on the skin they're using, just to kind of diversify the gameplay a bit more. I'm almost out of space on this memory card, so I'm going to go ahead and change it right now. Alright, next thing I'm going to cover is Space Crusade. And this is a game that I'm making from scratch. It's going to be in C++ at the moment. Later on I might be rewriting it as kind of a 2.5D game, similar to Gratuitous Space Battles, but a lot more involved. Actually, it might be more akin to I won't say Sword of the Stars or Sins of an Empire. I think that's what it's called. Sins of a Galactic Empire. But it's kind of a combination of this. Think of Spellforce, but as an a space RPG kind of thing. Give me a second, I'm gonna turn down the fan on my video card for a second so you can hear me better. I had to turn the air on when my fan's on, because it gets really hot in here, so my computer's basically a furnace. I think it's the video card that puts out all the heat though. But it's written in C++ at the moment. It's a really, I wouldn't consider it super old school, because there were text RPG games when I was growing up. So to me it's just old school. But it's completely done right now in the command window. The command window opens up and you enter all the game information and everything that happens inside of there. That's purely text-based, based as far as menu options and dialogues and how you interact with the game. But it's the game mechanics are based off of actual, mathematics. Some of the features for the game include a crap ton of weapons and ships. We have 43 different ships with 9 tiers of technological advancement. We also have I think we have 74 different missile weapons and laser weapons, as well as I think 24 bombs, different bomb weapons. There are some weapon types we are still working on, like heavy weapons and railguns, that don't have any weapons for those groups. Right now the game is linear. Well, not linear, but it's non-linear. That's a better way to put it than linear. There's no really underlying story to it at the moment. There's a bit of story at the beginning that kind of sets up the events that happen in the backstory briefly. It doesn't have, the 25 chapters or pages of text that the backstory does, but it covers what happens directly before